Modification to the 891. When I'm tired of dealing with this connector. Not that it's a bad connector, but it's a real pain to unplug when you're out there in the field and you end up fighting with it. There's really nothing special about it. It's a 4 conductor, and they're passing it through and combining it down to 2 leads. So it comes out 4 here, 4 small wires. I want to say they're like 12 gauge, and then I'm sorry, these are like 4 16 gauge, and then it ends up being a 12 gauge at the end. So I'm not a big fan of the Molex connectors. I would much rather have the Anderson power poles. I got to looking and I found a 3D printable version. So of course you're familiar with the best connector in the world, Anderson's. I will put the information to this, but this was a print that I found on Thingiverse, and it basically sandwiches the Anderson into the middle of it. It's actually pinned, and then the back casing comes around. Excellent design. It does pass through the 2 wires. I printed this with PETG, and of course, as you can tell, I like green. So what I'm showing here today is how we're going to end up modifying it. I'm going to set that to the side. Also too, on the print, there's no threads cut into it. I used an M3 screw and I twisted down in there, and as long as you get it nice and straight, it actually threads pretty good, and it does fit through the mount. It's a little tight, but at that point I would rather have it be tight. But like I said, this is the connector that's on the back side of it, and I genuinely just, it's frustrating. Like why do they use connectors when all the amateur communities are using Anderson power poles? So basically I'll be able to just plug my Anderson straight into the back of it and not have to worry about it. I've been using this as a quick conversion pigtail until I can get this piece figured out. There was another print, another version of it. I didn't care for it too much, but when I found this, I was like, yes, I got to do this. So I said I'll put a link to it, and you know, you can print it out yourself and try it. This is modifying the radio, so do it at your own risk. I am not responsible for what you do. I'm just here to show, hey, this is possible to be done. Okay, so I do have the side rails on. I'm going to detach the side rails and not lose the screws. And these rails are just 3D printed also. They're great. You can print them in any color you want, of course. I like green. And this is all PETG material. I found it's nice and shiny, strong, and it holds up to the temperature pretty good for what I do. You might have different respects to it, but this works out pretty good. The other materials you can use, ABS, they even say PLA works fine on it, which I found PLA is extremely soft. It might not be as durable, especially if you take this thing outside. Like, this thing is going to be mounted in a vehicle at some point for a short time. I am going HF mobile. Not going to be permanently mounted in there. At least not until I find a permanent radio to put in there. This print too, I can link this. These are just 2 identical symmetrical pieces, so they can flip to either side. Yes, I do need a new one. It cracked on me. have not taken off the bottom half of this radio, and we got to get right here in this section. Well, that wasn't too bad. And you did not actually have to take the feed off. So I'm actually going to put that back on. After I So you just got to remove the side screws, the top screws, on all that, and then you should be down here. Now, this was the part that I was seeing the pictures of, but figuring out how they did. And like I said, they ran like, that looks like 16 or even 18 off the connector straight into this. And then on the two terminals, which is nice for the terminals. I'm quite pleased with that. I'm really surprised that it's actually ring terminals here. And it is marked black and red on the board, in case you lose that. And it is marked positive, and positives on one side. Okay, so now to get the connector out. Okay, so there's two little tabs here and here. Squeeze them together, and then it's the same on both sides. Of course, the other side's up against the heat sink. Right, that I was able to back the connector right up. There we go. All right. See, that wire there is really small. Yeah, what is it? I think it's 16. Yeah, so they come from a 12 gauge down into a 16 with two of them, and then parallel them together to pass through that connector. That's insane, the amount. Alright, so I haven't terminated this one yet, but working at it. It's almost like they couldn't put the Andersons in for like a reason. Let's see how we fit. Oh, that fits really nice. Actually, no. That's gonna go like that. Oh, look at that. Get this oriented correctly. Of course, with 3D printed parts, you have to be aware that you got a little bit of a fitment to it. But I think this is going to sit in there just nice. I gotta take a couple seconds to clean that up, but let's see. Okay. Thing I am going to do, I took the top screws out, but I think I'm going to end up putting them back. Less stuff flopping around, better chance of not damaging anything. Kind of feel better with that. Okay, so this piece here, what I might be, so I have this turned around the wrong way. Okay, so I gotta work on the clearance of this a little bit. Sometimes with 3D printed parts, you have shrink, and I think that's what's happened here. So you give me a couple moments and let me adjust it. Otherwise, I mean, it's gonna sit in there just absolutely great. Like, fit better when the connector around the other way. Hey, give me a few minutes and let me make some adjustments to this and get it set right. Okay, so as you can see, I got it fit in there. What it is in the back side of this, probably because we have different Andersons, they vary in sizes, especially if you buy them from like DX Engineering or something, or if you order them from Amazon. These Andersons came from Amazon, but once I got that situated, it now sits in there. The back piece here wasn't sitting in the plate correctly, which I'm really surprised at how good a snug fit that is. And then this piece comes right in there and sandwiches the whole thing, and then you can send the bolts through. So as you see, that's really clean. I have to clean up that little printer mark there. So all I got to do is make a short jumper to go across from here into the ring terminals, basically replacing what was there. Now I went, of course, Amazon. You can find these really cheap. They have multiple sizes. This stuff is the one with the shrink tubing on it, which is the main reason I went with them. So we're gonna match this up. We're pretty close. I think that's the smallest I got. And it does sit in the bed just fine. Shouldn't be any problem. And this will do 14 to 16 gauge wire, which I have, so that will work out good. I have 22 to 16. It's the whole size of them. But you can find that on Amazon. I mean, it's nothing special. They show a real nice kit, you know, like all these divided up and stuff, and this is how I received it, as one big conglomerate mess. But, you know, it works. I only paid $7 for it, so I'm not really complaining about the packing. It's kind of less, you know, known. Now, I wanted to show you too that this was one of the first renditions, and this is the reason why I held off on it. I like how this thing captures the Anderson, but this is also another version where it comes in the back and then it bolts through and clamps over. Not saying that's bad design or anything, but the way it captures the Anderson is what concerned me. And if I take a look, so it comes through, and then this piece in the back is supposed to come around and capture the sleeves. So I put it on the right side here. No, I had it right. And then you bolt the piece together, but there wasn't that great at capturing with it. So the person that did this, I mean, it works, and it works pretty good, especially once you get in the radio. I wasn't too thrilled, but I like this capturing how those pieces work together. And also, you know, same thing, but it has a nut cert in it that you're able to melt that into the plastic. So it works. I just wasn't thrilled with how it looked. That's one option if you wanted to do it that way. Okay, so I have this end, and got to make sure I get it seated back on there right. There we go. And then the positive side's going to go up. So I'm going to hold off on the back plate just to make sure I get the right. Okay, so that should go together pretty good. Now the only bad thing is this has the holes that the wires are got to route through, so you're gonna kind of be stuck splicing these ends on that much material, which could play to be a little bit interesting. Let me make sure I get the right side to the right side here. Okay, so the elongated side goes down towards the negative, which will take that. There we go. So I have M3 screws, and I think they're going to work just perfect. Like I said, I pre-threaded it by screwing in one of these, so they should go in pretty easy. They're going to be a little bit tight, which is not a bad thing. Let me get the screw in there. Yeah, it's the same size. And you can get these screws from Amazon. They're nothing special. That's actually a really strong fit. I mean, that ain't coming off. So if I take power supply, look at that. Oh, that's going to make it so much nicer. The beauty thing with Andersons is the whole universal cable. Like, if you got a power supply to plug in, or another battery, or somebody else's stuff, anything, you don't have to hunt around for this connector or whatever connector they're using. You have a universal cable that works on anything, and if we all went to Anderson, we wouldn't have any problems at all. It would be kind of nice if the manufacturer started producing radios with the Anderson power poles, but you know, that might not ever happen, not for a while. Okay, now the fun part, I'm gonna have to strip this and get it into the crimp. Let me find a couple of tools here to do this. Okay, so after that fun venture getting them on, not the easiest thing. It says 14 to 16 gauge wire, and that's all it's going to fit. So if you get those, just beware. You might look and see if you can get the yellow terminals in that size. I do not have that, fortunately. So never just trust the crimp. Bad things happen when you do that, but it will not hurt crimping it. Just to get the mechanical strength of it. But in the bottom line, you need to solder these connections in. Probably super loud. Okay, so now after we got that in, still a little warm, which actually probably is good, so we can get that situated. Bolt these terminals back down in. These rings might be just a touch too big, but I think it'll be just fine. Okay, look at that. So there you have it. Red to red, black to black, Anderson in the back. Clean up this prim mark here. The nice thing with this modification, if you don't like it, you can always undo it. As long as you save this piece, clip this back in, bolt it back in, and you're good. So let me hook up my display and make sure that everything turns on. So let's turn on the power supply too. Okay, my lead from the power supply, and yes, I don't know where I put my dummy load, but I don't have the mic hooked up, so it shouldn't transmit. Look at that. There you have it. Modified, working off the Anderson, directly plugged in. No more Molex connector. Done with it. So there's the modification. I just got to put it back together. I did this also too mainly because I'm going to be using it in a vehicle, so I want easy removal because this will not be stored in that vehicle overnight. So there you have it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I can try to answer as much as I can of it. I will put a link to the creator for this, and definitely appreciate the work that he's put into that. That's extremely clean. I love it, and then everything just fit right, which is quite nicely. Hoping the green will contrast quite nicely with the side rails. So thanks for watching, and see you on the next adventure.